Welcome back, folks. CIOs and Bowties. This is Greg Silverman and David Crook on the line. We're talking about, specifically, we're talking about JIO platforms, a spin out from Reliance Industries in India, which a lot of people contend could be the Indian equivalent of the next Alibaba. But we're also talking about the dynamics of India and why they may be working in a very positive way for investments in India. So, David, let me hand it over to you. There was a recent Forbes article where they state, this was on the 14th of August, I assume, or July. In many ways, we are witnessing the birth of modern India. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that Forbes article and what that comment is pointing towards?
The Forbes article focused on Reliance's spin-off on JIO platforms, as you said, Greg. But it literally, it quotes, and I'll read it, in many ways, we are witnessing the birth of modern India. Is this the catalyst? Is this the juncture at the point at which India takes off from an economic perspective? And it's had its ups, it's had its downs over decades. We've had our hopes, we've had our letdowns. At some point in time, the 1.3 billion population in India is going to contribute immensely to world economic growth. And man, can we do that right now from a global perspective? Yeah. But that's obviously not going to happen overnight. But that being said, we have a system in place, we have a government in place that certainly has the will to do so. Just some of the difficulties we alluded to in part one with regard to the democracy, just hamstringing some of the moves one can make. But at the end of the day, these wonderfully adept financial partners that the Indian government has, just like Mukesh Ambani, his brother, by the way, who was, their father passed away in 2002. And that's when there was very deep and ugly divisions within the family, which was eventually resolved by the courts. Their mother tried to do things, and they are separate entities now. But Mukesh has spun off JIO, and I wonder if it isn't, according to Forbes, by the way, Greg, he's wealthier than Jack Ma. That in and of itself is industry in terms of the size of Reliance Industries.
Yeah.
So the power we're seeing there, the economic power that we're seeing there, maybe there is some political power. I don't know that for a fact at all. I'd be surprised if there wasn't. But that being said, this could be the point. This is the time. And India should take advantage of this. And clearly, global capital providers are looking for an opportunity to put money to work outside of the existing economies.
Yeah. So, we recently featured an article. I'm just going to just make sure I get this right here. So it talks about, and let me introduce the dynamic between India and China, right? Because clearly we're seeing China go a very autocratic path. We'll talk about this more, but let me just lay this up. China's going very autocratic, imposing its will on Hong Kong, perhaps on Taiwan. There was a military skirmish between India and China, which is, really frightening. I think there was 24 Indian soldiers were killed, and there were protests at the funerals of the Indian soldiers. So there's a lot bubbling under the surface. And as a result, we're all aware of Trump's approach to TikTok and Trump's approach to Huawei, etc. So, we're seeing almost a segregation of, for the time being, I'll call it geopolitics, but also in the technology rails, as in China and its allies will be developing according to their technology, and America, USA, India, etc., will be developing separate. I always use the VHS versus Betamax comparison, although it's very different, but it's simplistic. Be that as it may,
our younger viewers, Greg, will have no idea what you're talking about with regards to VHS and Betamax.
I'm trying to think of a parallel, maybe a CD player and streaming. I don't know. Okay. Be that as it may, let's just get back to the investment side. So all of this is quite apparent to the investment world. And certainly with COVID in the mix, I think it's either accelerated things or made it more stark and apparent. The article I'm referring to talks about India overtakes China in Q1 2020. This is for fintech funding in particular. And it talks about, the numbers around it. We'll put the link to the article here. But clearly, allocators are voting with their pockets already, and that shift is moving to India. So, yeah, do you have anything you want to respond to on that?
Yeah, a whole lot, Greg. I think geopolitics of the last while, this is not something new. I certainly believe that SARS-CoV-2, COVID-19, has accelerated this. Geopolitics is becoming more regional and more ally-driven. So we have seen, Australia's biggest trading partner by far, up until the recent past, has been China. They, I'm going to use the word milking, and maybe that's a little harsh on the Chinese, but they've been milking the Australian resources. And the Australian government, the Australian people, have not taken kindly to the way the Chinese have dealt with COVID-19 and the communications with the global community thereof. So there are tensions, real tensions, between Australia and China right now. There are tensions between the UK and China right now with regard to 5G, and other countries. Germany are in a different path, but who knows how that all pans out. And we're finding things becoming much more regional. We'll see that, much more internal, much more regional, and with China as well. They will focus much more on Asia than they will elsewhere in the world, is my guess. So we think that their ambitions are to take over the world. That's not really the case what the Chinese want to do. But that being said, there are tensions, there are frictions across the globe right now, and this just adds to them. By the way, this is just a competitor to something the Chinese are trying to grow and do, and something which the Americans have had their hand in for a number of decades. Another player in the marketplace.
Yeah, let's pause there because there's more to say on the geopolitical side. And so let's take one more break. When we come back, I think there's a few more interesting points that we can add onto the geopolitical discussion. So hang with us, folks.